Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the University of Edinburgh Napier Global Online MBA webinar. My name is Helen Spyropoulos, and I am from Stafford Global. I am the admissions manager at Stafford. And joining me this evening all the way from the university is Dr. Catherine. Good evening to you, Dr. Catherine.
Hi, good evening.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Dr. Catherine. And I'm actually just looking here on my right-hand side as well, and I can see there's quite a lot of students that have joined us as far afield as Africa. And we also have some students from the Middle East. So welcome this evening. How we are going to conduct the webinar this evening is I'm just going to briefly chat to you about Stafford Global and what our function is. And then I'm going to hand you over to Dr. Catherine, who's going to take you through the webinar. Now, towards the end of the presentation, you will have the opportunity to type out any questions that you would like to ask myself or Dr. Catherine. What I am going to be doing is looking at these questions quite carefully, because the questions do tend to be very similar, if not identical. So please do look out or do listen to the very important question and answer. Okay, so let's get started. Now, who is Stafford Global? Now, Stafford Global has been a resource centre for 6 UK universities, and we were established in 1993. Now, one of our partner universities is Edinburgh Napier University. We've got a very, very strong relationship with Edinburgh Napier University, and we offer a variety of programs. Now, the mere fact that you are here this evening with us means that you have been in communication with one of our experienced academic consultants. And our function at Stafford Global is to ensure that we assist you with your application, get your application into the university, get that very, very important unconditional offer. Your degree certificate would come from the Edinburgh Napier University and not from Stafford Global. Okay, I'm now going to hand you over to Dr. Catherine, who is going to take you through the program, and I'll be then joining you towards the end of the webinar. Over to you, Dr. Catherine.
That's great, thank you. Just to say a quick hello to everyone, and greetings from not so sunny Edinburgh, but we're coping. So I'm Dr. Catherine Olusanmi, and I'm the Deputy Program Leader for our MBA Global Online here at Edinburgh Napier. Our program leader is Dr. Andrew Bratton, and you will get to meet him when you join the program. So notice I say when, because I'm hoping that after today's session, you'll be convinced to join us at Edinburgh Napier. So as a starting point, just want to go through a few things. Start with Edinburgh, where we're based, but also just to give you an idea of Edinburgh Napier University, what we're about, what are some of our focus priorities, and just to give you a better idea of what you will get joining us on this program. But also then we'll go through the program and then its structure, some of the different routes, assessments, and all of that. And we'll get to go through a few questions too at the end. So just to begin then, just to give you an idea of where we're based. So we are based in Edinburgh, which is in Scotland, as most people know. And also, I believe we are the second populous city in Scotland after Glasgow, and the seventh in the UK. So we are doing quite well. It's a great place to live, and we're proud to be one of the permanent universities in Edinburgh. So just a brief about Edinburgh. So Edinburgh, like I said, is quite a developed kind of booming city, and certainly a number of our students who have graduated have gone on to got really good jobs and develop and settle in terms of their career. And in a way, that's kind of reflected in some of the stuff that we've said here. So for example, we're known to be area where we have a financial hub. The UK is very much well known in terms of London as a big financial hub, and we're proud that Edinburgh is actually following second outside London. So it's a great place to develop your career, whether it's in finance or management. But also we have a lot of kind of high tech organizations setting up in Edinburgh as well, which makes it also quite a developing city in terms of technology. It's considered and has been voted actually one of the best places to live in the UK, and that has been voted in the past 3 years. But also, most people will also know Edinburgh quite well for its social cultural aspect, and we're particularly quite well known to be one of the largest arts, to have one of the largest arts festival in the world. And those who might be aware of Scotland might have heard of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which we do every August. And that tends to attract a lot of people from different parts of the world, not just the UK. So quite a prominent city, like I said, and we're kind of quite proud to be known as one of the key universities, and that's offering a range of opportunities for students as well. So in terms of Edinburgh Napier itself, we have quite a good and big and kind of diverse student profile. So currently we have almost 20,000 students, and most of our students come from about 130 countries. So we do have quite a wide international base, but also beyond our on-campus students, which is almost 14,000 or so on Edinburgh. We also have 6,000 who are studying in partner universities worldwide and online, including the MBA online. So in terms of partnerships, so Stafford is one of the partnerships that we have, but we also have partnerships with universities in Hong Kong and Singapore. I actually teach as well in Hong Kong and Singapore, and I must say it's been quite a great experience teaching in Napier across a diverse range of students, you know, who come from different parts of the world, because beyond kind of embracing that diversity and getting perspective from a diverse group of people, we're also learning as well, you know, in terms of how we are developing our teaching. We're taking a very international base, which we've always done, and that's something that we're hoping to develop even further. So we have partnership in different parts of the world. We also have partnership in Miami, and also we have students from various range and different parts of the world. From the Caribbean, I have students who I'm supervising from the Caribbean. We also have students from Hong Kong, from Africa, the Middle East, and so we are quite an international based university, and our focus then is very much a global approach, and anyone who would kind of look at our values will also see that inclusivity, and that is something that filters not just through where we in terms of our students, but also in terms of our teaching, you know, adopting that inclusive approach, adopting that global approach in terms of what we do and how we do things. So within that MBA online, then hopefully that will make you feel very welcomed in terms of our priorities, but also as a quite international focused organization. So having said that, that is coming from my perspective as an employee of Napier, but also just to highlight a few kind of external legitimacy that we've received. So that gives you an idea of also how what we're doing, say, internally translates externally. So we are considered #1 in terms of Modern University for Business Management. We've also been ranked top 5 in terms of UK modern universities for accounting and finance, top 10 in terms of university for marketing, but also for business studies. And you can see there that business management, accounting and finance, marketing, business studies, these are all kind of areas which is covered within our MBA. So you can kind of see that wherever area that you're looking to specialize in, we've kind of been ranked and seen as top in terms of what we're doing on a UK scale. So that gives you a picture in terms of what we're doing internally and how that translates externally. But also beyond the type of courses that we offer, we can also see that there's more in terms of what we focus on there. We talk about graduate employability. Employability and graduate employability is a key aspect in terms of our value. And again, that's something that's not just translated in terms of, say, at the undergrad level. That's something that we implement at postgraduate level, and certainly on our MBA programs. So when you do join our MBA programs, you'll see that we offer different events and workshops which focus on employability, but also beyond that, in terms of how our modules and our program is structured, it's focused on employability, because we recognize that most people who are joining are either going into a managerial role, going into a work setting, or are either managers already and are looking to develop further. And so these are some of the things that we emphasize and focus on in terms of how we structure our programs. We also have some recognition in terms of excellence in reward and in terms of research awards, So again, that's kind of showing that a lot of our teaching, a lot of the work that we do is research informed. So we're constantly looking to develop ourselves and get better in terms of what we do. So just to give you an idea in terms of some of the things that we're doing well and areas that, are linked to the MBA and potentially convince you further into joining our program. So kind of focusing more on the program itself then. So we have two different routes, I would say. So you can decide to go on the MBA general route, or you can go in terms of the MBA with route. So the with routes are on this slide, but I'll just go through this one first, and then we'll go to the with the specialist route. Okay, so regardless of which program that you're going on, whether it's the MBA General or one of the with routes, there are kind of certain key modules that you will be taking. So you're going to be taking 4 core modules, and that's your management and organizational change, leading strategic decision making, marketing and building high performance organizations, global business economics, and finance. So basically, whether you're going for an MBA General or you're going for an MBA with HRM, human resource management, or health management, or banking, you will be doing those 4 core modules as a starting point. And then for each program that you do decide to take, you will get 2 specialist modules that are specific to that particular program. So for the MBA General one, the 2 specific ones that you will be doing are the ones highlighted in blue, and that's managing innovation and contemporary issues in strategic management. And then after doing these 4 core modules for your 2 specialist one, you will then move on to your research skills for managers and your MBA projects. So you see there, that gives you an idea roughly of all the modules that you take, and will give you a better idea in terms of how long that's going to take in the next couple of slides. Yeah. So for example, just kind of showing the next slide again. So this is specific to the MBA General. However, if you do decide to go for MBA Banking, for instance, you see that the difference are the 2 kind of specialist modules that you'll be taking. So it would pretty much be the same structure, but you will be taking global finance and financial markets and institutions and banking. And you can see how that links to the other specialist routes. So in terms of the actual modules then, in terms of the core modules, so we have selected a few core modules, and the rationale for that is because they're very much central to a lot of management positions. So for example, we talk about management and organizational change. So in any organization, you know that you're going to have to deal with managers. You know that most people here are either managers already, working or aspiring to be at that level. So some of the things we'll be covering there is, what does it mean to be a manager? What are some of the key priorities? What are some of the things we need to be considering? But more importantly, we talk about organizational change. And organizational change is a key aspect in any business environment today, where we talk about change being the constant. So regardless of what level you are within the organization, organizational change is something that will be significant. And certainly a lot of organizations are emphasizing the need for adaptability of their staff and being able to change and adapt and adjust quickly. So it's a key module, a core one in that sense. So you'll be looking at there's a variety of things in terms of when we talk about change. You can go from your smaller incremental change to your more transformational ones, like your mergers or whatever the case. But some of the things we might be talking about here is, how do we manage change? What are some of the structures that we need to consider? What are some of the issues in terms of resistance, and so on and so forth? So quite a key central one there. The second one, leading strategic decision making. This is more of a hybrid model, whereby we've mixed leadership and strategy together. Again, we can kind of see how that's important, because we talk about how leadership plays a role. Even when we think about change context, you have to have the right leadership in terms of to have that vision. But also we have strategy coming into play here, where we talk about being able to adapt to what's going on externally. So both of that we'll be looking then at how do we bring our people together during strategic, how are we getting people to come with us in terms of strategy? How are we making decisions? What are some of the leadership qualities that we're looking at, and so forth? We also have marketing and building high performance organizations, which also is some sort of a combination between marketing and entrepreneurship. So here again, we're thinking, what is a high performing organization look like? What are some of the things we need to put in place? But also, how are we marketing our organization? How are we branding ourselves and making other people aware of who we are? We have global business economics and finance. And again, this is more emphasizing this concept of globalization, which we know is impacting both at national, but also at international level. So here we're thinking about economics, we're thinking about micro, we're thinking about macroeconomics, but we're also thinking about finance. What is the financial health of the organization? So you can kind of see within those core modules, we're talking about really key central aspects, which you need to think about within an organization. And the benefit of those core modules is that whether you're specializing in HRM or accounting, it means that you can get a snippet, some idea of different key construct or areas within the organization, different key aspects of management. So if you do decide to specialize in health management, for instance, you have those basics within those core modules before you then go on to specialize in your own area that you want to look at. So having gone through those, the last two ones, which is your research skills for managers and MBA project. So this is now where you design a project then, where you want to look at in a bit further. So in order to go to the MBA project, there is a research skills for managers which we put in place. And the benefit of this one is that we recognize that not everybody's done some sort of research before. And so the benefit of this module is to give you a starter. It's to equip you with the skills, the knowledge to be able to undertake research. So again, if you have done some sort of research before, it could form as a refresher in terms of what are some of the key developments in research. So typical example, we've gone through COVID and we know that the way in which we conduct research changed as a result of COVID. And so these are some of the things that potentially a refresher that you will be getting. But you'll be getting some sort of knowledge in terms of how do we conduct a research that is quantitative, i.e. maybe a survey, a questionnaire. How do we analyze it? Because when you do quantitative, you're going to have to use some sort of statistics, and you'll be taught in terms of how to analyze this type of data. But also, if you're doing the more qualitative research, interviews, focus groups, research journals, or whatever other form of qualitative you might be doing, again, you need to be able to analyze this data. So these are some of the things that you will learn through the research skills for managers module. You also get to develop some sort of a proposal which will feed into your project. Hello? Oh, okay. I thought there was a noise there, sorry. You also get to do some sort of a proposal which will feed into your MBA project. So this is where a lot of people might be able to say, for example, bring that back into your organization. So it's not uncommon for students to actually look at an issue within your organization that perhaps you want to focus on a bit more and research that further. And the benefit of that, again, is, you know, you're gathering information, and this information can be fed back to your employers, and it could be a big, say, a useful research finding, which could be implemented back into the organization and could be quite significant. You don't have to go through that path. You can go through and look at an area that you've always had an interest in that might be not necessarily be linked to your organization. But the idea of the MBA project is it's your project, and you get, say, some sort of autonomy in terms of the topic. However, just to highlight, the project will be based on your specialist area. So if you're doing an MBA in HRM, human resource, for example, it would be an area specific to human resource management that you'll be basing your project on. Yeah? So I've come from a human resource management background, and I've supervised a number of students who have done various things from talent management to reward, motivation, basically a range of human resource specific areas. So just to reiterate that then, so the specialist areas will be those specific to if you've gone for a width route, but also you get to specialize a bit more when you do your project, which again gives you a lot of then expertise in some way in that particular area. Because if you think about it, you're doing the specialist module and you're also doing your MBA projects within that. So that gives you a rough idea in terms of the structure. With the research skills and your proposal, you'll be given a supervisor who will help you through the process. So they will provide some sort of guidance, and the person who will be supervising you will have expertise in that particular area that you're looking at. Yeah. So they will help in terms of developing your proposal, but also give you some sort of how do you scale your project and make sure it's doable, and if you require any further academic skills, for example, they might be able to point you in the right direction and recommend maybe some key articles, but they are there to support you through the process. So it's not something that you'll be left to do on your own. So having said that, before we quickly go through the specialist routes, just want to highlight some exit points. And what we mean by that is we recognize that different people have different kind of reasons for going with the MBA, but also we recognize that things can change as you go along through your MBA journey. And so we recognize that not everybody might be able to see it through or might want to see it through. So there are different opportunities in terms of where you can exit, where you still, just to let you know what you will be getting at those different stages. So if you go through the whole process, you do the 6 key modules and then your research skills for managers and your MBA project, you'll be getting a total of 180 credits. So the MBA project has 40 credits, whereas the other modules has 20 credits. So this is what's going to give you the actual MBA. Yeah, going through the whole, the last 2 phases will give you the MBA, which is 180 credits. If you decide that you don't want to do the research skills and the MBA project, and you just focus on the 6, then you get a postgraduate diploma, and that will give you 120 credits. If you want to do just the 3, then you get the postgraduate certificate. If you're doing less than this, individual modules carry an award. So again, there is a merit to having the individual modules. Obviously, we want you to go through the whole process, and we would advise you to go through the whole process. However, there is still some value within the individual modules because, for example, if you do decide to do maybe change management and organizational change, and you want to get a promotion to be a change manager, for example, or you want to pursue a leadership position and you do the leadership leading strategic decision making, that's something that will still give you some sort of leverage, because then you can say, I've done this course which focuses on leading strategic decision making, and I've done that at an MBA level. And that will still give you some sort of credibility, some sort of leverage, but it's just to make you aware of the different kind of exit points. But like I said, ideally, we would like you to go through the whole process and come out with your MBA. So it gives you an idea of all the specialized modules and the width routes. So a range of that there, and you see that some of them might overlap in some way with the, so for example, with the MBA in entrepreneurship, you have managing innovation, and that's part of the general MBA. So some of them you will see some similarities here and there. Okay. So in terms of the actual program then, so we see the program is 100% online. Yeah, and what that means is you're not required to be on campus at any point. If you want to visit the campus, it's as an Edinburgh Napier University student, you are, welcomed to visit, and certainly get in touch with the Global Online team or the program team. Let them know you want to visit, and we'll be able to advise and show you around. But you're not required to. It is 100% online. It's asynchronous, and what we mean by that is there isn't a situation whereby the tutor or lecturer will be in a virtual classroom at the same time as the student. The only time that this will happen is during your live sessions, which I'll talk about in the next slides. So all the information that you need, recordings of lectures, slides, reading material, everything is done online, okay? And so we can kind of see then that offers a lot of flexibility, because it's pretty much a chance for you to go through the material as and in your own time, and everything is done at the convenience of your own time. So all the materials from all the topics that you're going to be covering on a module, everything will be online at the beginning of the trimester, and it's just up to you to work through that as and when fits. So very flexible system that we have. But also we have high quality materials which are engaging, interactive, and self-directed. So a key part of that is that it is self-directed, because you will have several contents to work through on your own. But we also make it as interactive and engaging for you as possible. And we do that through the live sessions. So the live sessions is basically you get 13 weeks of the module, and for every topic area, there will be a live session. The live sessions are not compulsory, because obviously we have different students from different parts of the world, and we recognize that not everybody is going to be able to fit within the time frame, but also because of work commitments and other things, it might not facilitate that, but they are recorded. But the benefit of the live session is it can be a form of a Q&A where you can talk about the particular topic that you're covering that week. There will be other students as well where you can engage in some sort of discussion, you can engage in some sort of exercise, and so that makes it quite interactive. But we also have discussion forums within your course page, which will put in discussion topics, which you can get to put your insights, but also other students can join in the discussion. So as much as possible, even though we don't have that face-to-face, it's very interactive, but there are different methods of learning as well. So recordings, experts, interviews, self-assessments, and self-reflection exercises, which you can engage in. So it's very kind of diverse in terms of the learning, recognizing different people's learning styles, but also allows you to be able to engage and interact with students, other students as well. So it's truly international experience. Again, I've talked about how it's very much international. We've talked about having students from different parts of the world, from America, from Asia, Africa, Middle East. So you will get to meet people from different parts of the world, even from Europe. So really quite an international experience. There's 3 intakes per year. So we have your January, May, and September intake. So, and the benefit of that again is it gives you time to be able to come in at different points of the program, and it's just not, you know, if you've missed one point, it doesn't mean that you don't get a chance to come in again. So in terms of assessment then, which I know a lot of students are always interested to know about, certainly when I was a student, that was always the first thing I looked at. So I completely understand. But also gives you an idea in terms of how you can fit this into your day-to-day work, life, and so on. So we have both a formative feedback as well as a summative assessment structure. So formative feedback, we mean, is a way of giving you continuous feedback in terms of how well you're doing. Yeah. So, and this is usually not marked. Actually, it's not marked. It's a way for you to be able to see, gauge, because I can understand within an online system or within a self-directed learning, it can feel a little bit like you're on your own, but in this one, you're not, because you're getting constant feedback. So this can be in the form of, say, oral discussion. And again, a typical example of how that might work is during the live sessions. It could also be in the form of a discussion forum, as I said, where a topic is embedded or inputted within a discussion forum for a week, get you guys to have a discussion with other members of the course, and then your module leader will come in and give some sort of breakdown or answer or suggestions in terms of what, you know, their perspective or what it should be. But also you get your self-assessments, which are again part of your learning, which are included through the design. So again, that gets you to answer questions after every maybe couple of reading sessions or after a video for you to be able to see what you got from it. And then you can get some feedback in terms of, was this right? Or perhaps I need to go back and check it again, and so on. So it comes in different formats. So it could be written, it could be verbal format, but the idea is you get some sort of ongoing feedback. And the benefit of that is it means that you can check how well you're doing and say before you get to your final assessment. And so you can kind of go back, because it's self-directed, it's flexible. You can go back and reassess what you've learned through a particular unit, for instance, and then come back and do the assessment again and evaluate how well you've done, and so on. So really quite effective system in that sense. You also get some sort of a summative assessment. So the summative assessment then is your marked assessments. So depending on the module that you're on, it could take different forms. So some of them are where you get some sort of end of unit tests, and then you get a final project or work that you're doing, say in week 13. So with the end of unit tests, you get different units for different topic area, for different modules. So what I mean by that is, let's take the module managing organizational change. Within that, you have maybe 10 topics, yeah? And we call those topics units. So topic A is unit 1, for instance. You go through the reading, the lecture, or the material that's provided for that topic. And then at the end of that, you get some sort of end of unit tests. Yeah. And so in total, you're going to get 10 end of unit tests for the 10 topics that you're covering on a particular module. And that will account for 10% of your overall mark. Yeah. And then you get a final project in week 13, which will account for 90% of your final mark. On some modules, you get a system whereby you do an assessment halfway through. So for example, you do an assessment in week, say 6, for instance, and that will cover the materials that you've done so far to that week. And then the remaining weeks will cover for the last week of the semester. And so you get 2 assessments at different points of the semester. And so depends on the module, but generally the key structure is that you will get the end of unit tests and the final one. So in terms of the assessments, those are done online. As we said, everything is done online. In terms of measuring and making sure that any work that you're doing is consistent, we have a quality assurance process as well. And so the module leader, after the assessments have been done, will take some sort of a sample and make sure that there is authenticity to that. We also have a system which some people might be aware of, which is called Turnitin. And again, that's something for us to be able to check things like plagiarism and making sure that any work that's submitted is authentic. In some instances, if say there's some sort of discrepancy in terms of the work that's been submitted, you could be asked to do some sort of oral exam, which we refer to as a viva. And basically it's your way of saying, this is my work, this is the thought process, and making sure that what you've described matches what you've done. However, it's uncommon that we do this, and that's purely because we have quite a stringent process in place, and most people are aware of what they should be doing and not doing on the assessments. But it's just to give you an idea of our quality assurance process. So in terms of the trimester outline, so this is what I was saying earlier. If you join in January, for instance, this gives you an idea of how long it will take for you to go through the whole MBA. Yeah, so if you join in January and you decide to take 2 modules per trimester, it gives you an idea roughly when you would finish. But most people actually spread this out. And what I mean by that is some people might decide to just take 1 module per trimester. Yeah, see how they feel. And if they feel that they can do more and try 2, they might decide to do 2 modules, for instance, or they might keep to 1, and so on and so forth. So it's up to you in terms of how many you want to do, but we wouldn't recommend more than 2 per trimester. And actually, we wouldn't accept you doing more than that. So the maximum you can do is 2, but some people do the 1. So that gives you a rough idea. The project, you can do that in 1 trimester, or you can do it in 2. But normally, you're given 2 trimesters to do that. So I always advise for you to take the 2 trimesters to do it, because it's a project you want to take your time, taking into time how long it takes to do research, collect data, and work priorities. But it depends again, say, in terms of your capability, or also say priorities at the point in time. Some people might already have the data if you're doing some sort of secondary data. And so in that case, it reduces the time, and in that you might be able to do that in 1 trimester. But the idea is it gives you a rough idea in terms of how long it would take, but also how you can spread that out. So the first week would usually be access to module materials on our virtual learning environment. And again, like I said, all the material will be online for all the topics that you're covering on a module. So, and the benefit of that is you can go through them as and when you wish during the weeks. You get some sort of online induction as well, which gives you guidance in terms of what are the key supports that's available. So academic skills team, which are really helpful in terms of writing essays, academic writing, how your journey through your university process. So a lot of information there in terms of online induction. So that will consist of a video. It could also consist of written information, which gives you a lot of guidance in terms of the types of support that are available for you. And then within the week 2 and 12, you're doing your module study, and then your final assessment towards the end there in week 13. So we've gone through the structure, the different routes, assessments. So just to kind of round off then, we are looking at entry requirements. So the fees will be, Stafford will speak to you more about that, your Stafford consultant. But in terms of entry requirements, our generic entry requirement is to have an honours degree at 2-2 plus 2 years relevant work experience. However, I say it's a generic one because we know that we have people from different parts of the world with different qualifications, different certificates. So it's something that we are going to have a conversation about. So it doesn't necessarily have to match that honours degree and a 2-2. So sometimes, say if you have maybe a certificate or a diploma, but you have a significant amount of years of work experience, that was something that we would consider. But the idea is it's something that we will look at on an individual basis. But that's the default. But depending on what qualifications you have or work experience, it's something that we can look at and make a decision in terms of how that matches the program that you're looking to get on. In terms of English, if English is not your first language, you will need to provide some sort of evidence which is demonstrating that you can conduct yourself in English. So either that you've done a previous degree in English or results of some sort of English language test. And this is really important because, like I said, you're going to be doing a dissertation of some sort for your final project. So, and that's going to require you to engage in critical writing, analyzing other people's work that you've read, but also on the different modules as well. You'll be doing reports, you'll be doing case studies, which will involve having a good English level. So something that is quite important in that sense. Again, for more information in terms of English requirements, please speak to your Stafford consultants, and they would say liaise with us, and we will make a decision in terms of that. Okay, so finally, graduation. So at this point, everyone who is on an Edinburgh Napier University student will be invited for a graduation. Yeah, and the picture there is Usher Hall, and that is bang in the middle of Edinburgh, actually not quite far from here. So really great experience to come. So you are invited to come and graduate in person if you are able to visit Edinburgh. I've had some online students who've actually come to do their graduation face-to-face, and we've met and had a coffee. So it was really great to kind of meet in person after just being online. But obviously, that's not something that everybody can do. So if you're not able to come, that doesn't take away from your graduation. Your certificates will be posted to you, and you'll be graduating in absentia, but that's an extension, abstention, but it's still something that is available to you, whether you are face-to-face or online. Okay, so that kind of rounds off in terms of what I want to cover in terms of the program. So I'm just gonna pass it on and
excellent. Thank you.
Questions.
Sorry, Dr. Catherine, thank you so much. It was a very, very informative presentation. And I have been looking at the questions in the background. I've already started grouping them. Okay. So here's a very interesting question from Cindy. In your opinion, Dr. Catherine, is it advisable to do 2 modules at the onset of the program, or is it best to take 1 module and then progress to 2?
Okay. I would be recommending you to try 1 to start with, because I think It depends on your circumstance, yeah. But what I find is if you're not someone who's been away from education for a while, for instance, and you come in and you want to start your MBA, it's always better to start with one module, I would say, to give you an idea. But also it could, like I said, it could be due to work commitment, but I always advise start with the one. And then at least say if you feel comfortable, you can decide to do two rather than being overwhelmed with two at the beginning, if that makes sense.
Good. And the next question is from Michael regarding ACSB accreditation. When would this be expected to be finalized?
Right, so that's interesting because actually we had an ACSB visit in April last month. I think it was the end of last month. So we are actually now in the process of waiting for feedback. We've submitted everything, they've come to visit. So I believe we should be hearing back probably in June, if I'm not mistaken. So it would be a while, but we should be hearing back in about June. But we've gone through the process recently. Yeah.
Good, fantastic. And you did mention that we can attend the graduations. Can you advise which month the graduations are held? And secondly, would distance learning be mentioned on my degree certificate?
Right, so it wouldn't be distinguished in terms of whether it was online. It would just be a degree from Edinburgh University, Napier University, as anyone that was on campus. So that's not something that would be listed. In terms of the month, July is usually the graduation month. Yeah.
Okay, and now we also have a question from Hamza. I have completed a postgraduate diploma from a university in Saudi Arabia. Will the university provide me with credits? And if so, how many?
Well, it would depend on the topic that the program that you've done in terms of is it Saudi Arabia? Yeah. So it would depend on several things. First of all, what program have you done? What program are you looking to go on to on the MBA? So in terms of the core modules, if you've done similar to the core modules, then certainly that's something that we would look at in terms of providing credit. But I would advise you to provide as much information as possible in terms of what you've done previously. And this is now things like your learning outcomes. If you can get hold of that, it could be in the program handbook or module guides or anything that would be useful. Because so what we'll be doing is matching, what have you done on the previous program in terms of what we're looking at on this program. And if there's a match, then you will get some sort of credit. Yeah. So provide as much information as possible. It depends on the area that you're looking to go into. All of that will contribute towards credit.
That is spot on, Catherine. And I just want to add here, Hamza, that if you are looking for possible credit exemptions, you need to submit your application as early as possible, because that does take some time. And as Dr. Catherine has mentioned, they have to map your learning outcomes to the modules, learning outcomes at Edinburgh Napier. And Catherine and her team have to actually have a time to look at that. So please, if you are going to look at any exemptions, do send in that application as early as possible. Okay, next question regarding, this is regarding tutoring.
Okay.
Can you advise how often the tutors will be able to assist me? You did mention that there are online discussions, but is there any other way that they can be contacted?
Yeah, certainly. So like I said, you will get a live session. So it's embedded in all our programs that you will get a weekly live session, which is on each topic. So that's your first initial kind of way to get additional support, because it will come across as a Q&A where you can ask the tutor questions. But also on the virtual learning environment that we use, which we call Moodle. There's also emails of the tutor, there's emails of the module leader, and you can get in touch with them directly as well by email to ask for additional support, depending on the type of support that you require. If it's something to do with academic writing skills, then we have a dedicated team which focus on academic writing support. And they're really good in the sense that you can actually book an appointment with them directly. So they do different seminars and workshops throughout the year or throughout the trimester. But if you're not able to attend that, or you want to speak to them directly in person, you can book an appointment as well. And they will work around, the time difference, and they have different slots available and so on. So there's loads of support available. Just to highlight something that I didn't talk about earlier, we also have global online student advisors. So we call them GOSAs. They're kind of like a personal development tutor. And again, they could be contacted as well if you have any issues or problems, and they will signpost you to who can help, or you can speak to the module or tutors as well directly. So there's a lot of opportunities to get support. Yeah.
Good, excellent. And Mainza has actually joined us all the way from Zambia. Good evening to you, Mainza. Again, your question is, I recently graduated from Oxford Brook University with a BSc in Applied Accounting. Congratulations, that's excellent. And I have only received my transcript, and I'm yet to receive my degree certificate, only at the end of June of 2023. Can I apply for May using my transcript? Oh, okay. So I'll answer that one for you, Mainza. All right. Admissions at the university needs to ensure that you have completed your bachelor degree. They will accept the bachelor degree certificate. There are instances where they do not have to have the transcript. Okay. So my advice to you is to try and get that transcript as soon as possible, but the degree certificate. Unfortunately, if it's only going to be issued to you at the end of June of 2023, my advice then would be for you to apply in the September intake, which is not really very far away. And we are currently accepting applications for the May as well as for the September intake. So you're very welcome to send us all the other documents that you may have, and then we can just wait for that final document, which would be your degree certificate. So I hope that actually answers your question, Mainza, but our academic consultant will also be in contact with you in the course of the week to give you some guidance on that as well. Okay. All right, so let's go through to the next question. With regards to assignments, if I do happen to fail, do I get an intense review and then have the opportunity to resubmit?
Yeah, so you get a second chance to resubmit. So what we have, so for example, if you did an assignment that's due in December, for example, and didn't go well, you will get another chance to be able to retake it, I believe, in April. So you will always get a chance to redo it at a next offering, say next time the assignment is submission time, which would be in a couple of months. So it would be, for example, in April. So that gives you another chance to redo it. But also, we would provide additional support. And so you would normally get detailed feedback in terms of why you didn't do well. But if you feel you need more kind of personalized feedback, you can always contact the tutor and the module leader. But we'll also, after every reassessment, we kind of issue updated guidance to be able to say, okay, this is what you need to focus on in terms of redoing this assessment as well. So you get that, as well as if you require a more personalized feedback from the module team or tutor, So you get those two options as well.
Excellent, excellent. And we have another question from Michael. Can I undertake one core and one optional module at the same time?
Do you mean the specialist modules? Yeah.
Yeah.
You could decide to do that, but I always advise if you're sure that that's what you want to do. And what I mean by that is, so sometimes we get people who are on a program and they decided halfway through they don't want to do that program anymore. They want to try a different program, and that's acceptable. However, if you've done one of the specialist ones within a particular program, it could be then difficult to change into another program. So I always advise to do the core ones first, but it's acceptable for you to do that as well if you want to do the core and a specialist one in a trimester. But it depends on when it's being offered within the trimester as well, because some of the modules are offered in try one. The core ones you find are offered more frequently, whereas the specialist ones are offered maybe in a particular trimester. So if it matches, then you can do it by all means. It's just a case of if you want to change over, then at some point it might be difficult if you've done the specialist one.
Good, excellent. And a very interesting question from Botumelo. I'm going to be studying this program soon, starting in May.
Great.
Well done, good. Now, I know that this is an online distance learning program. However, is there assistance from the university to help in securing a job in the UK once I have completed this program?
I mean, we have a career service, which is for any student of Edinburgh Napier. So it doesn't matter. It just depends on what exactly your type of help that you're looking at. They can certainly give you advice. So I know some people have asked for advice in terms of maybe visas and things like that. So they can definitely advise you based on what they know. But in terms of helping to apply for visas, for example, that's something that they wouldn't be able to do. But they'll be able to advise you, the visa requirements or what the restrictions are, and they can give you general advice in terms of career as well. So any kind of students of Edinburgh Napier, whether online or on campus, you have the career service available to you to provide support. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, the next question is, you mentioned that I can visit the campus at any time. My question is, will I have access to any library or any other facility at the university?
Yeah, so you will have access, most of our online students have access to the library currently, so that's not going to be a problem. It might be a case of being able to borrow perhaps might be slightly different or difficult because of student cards and that, but that's something that if that's what you want to do, you can speak to any of the global online team and they just need to speak to the library and organize that for you. But generally you will have access to the library whether you're online or on campus. Yeah.
Good. And I have been informed that this program can be completed in 21 months. Is there any possibility that I can complete it in 12 months?
I think that might be a challenge. Only because of the way that if we go back to that structure that we had, considering all the modules that you have to take, I think that could be a challenge because actually, yeah, I think it might be a challenge because if you do 2 per trimester, so that's about, let me see. Actually, let's see if we can bring that slide up a second.
Yeah, and I know quite a lot of students have asked that question, and it is unfortunate that it's really cannot be done. And I'm sure Dr. Catherine will be able to look at the academic side behind that. It's very difficult to try and complete this program in 1 year. And Dr. is quite correct in saying if you look at your trimesters, it's 3 months and you need to do 2 modules. You won't be able to complete it with the number of modules that are also available. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Catherine, but it is really, and personally, I wouldn't advise it, but I'm sure from your end, from the academic side, you'd actually say the same thing.
Yeah, I would say exactly the same, because looking back at that slide that I shared, if you started in January, for instance, that will, by December, you would just be completing six of the modules. That would leave out your research as well as your MBA project, and that's 12 months, so it's not doable. But also, the workload. I would be advising you to take, the maximum I would be advising to do that actually we would allow is also 2 per trimester. So based on the structure and what we have, it's not possible, I'm afraid.
Yep, very good. And follow-up question to that. In that case, what would be the maximum time frame that I can complete this MBA if I need to stretch it?
Okay, so there's different options available. So we have option where you can have a suspended studies, and that just means that you can suspend your study for 1 trimester, for example. So that would mean that you're not doing anything for 1 trimester and then start again. However, that will be on a circumstance basis. So for example, if something's happened, you might be able to suspend it for maybe a maximum of 3 trimesters, but normally it wouldn't be the case where you would be able to go more than that. But again, that would be dependent on the circumstances. So on a basic level, you can get a suspension for 1 trimester, up to 2, depending on the situation, and a max of 3, depending on a case by case. So if you take that, then say you started in January and you did 1 module, and then you decided to suspend for 2 trimesters, that means that you're not doing anything for the after January, from April period till about the end of the year, and then you're starting again. So that's almost a long time, more than 6 months that you've got that delay. So that's one option. The other option is you can get some sort of extenuating circumstance, and that again, you have to provide supporting evidence. So this is where maybe again something's happened, but perhaps you don't want to go for the suspension one, and you just want to delay the time that you submit your work, for instance. So in those instances, you're still expected to engage, but you're not completely away from your studies. And so that just delays submission of maybe an assessment, for instance. And the other option is if you do 1 module per trimester, you can kind of see how that extends that again. So if you're just doing the 1, that means that it takes potentially maybe more than the 21 months that you're given. So again, it depends on what the situation is, but there are different options there, which on a case-by-case basis we will look at in terms of,
Good.
I hope does that answer that? It's quite a difficult one because it depends on the situation.
It does. It depends on the individual student and the situation. Quite correct. Okay. And are there any strict entry criteria to meet the English requirement? Okay. So let me answer that. If you get in contact with your academic consultant, they will be able to advise you on the various ways that you can meet that English requirement. So there will be a discussion that will be had between you and the academic consultant. Again, it depends on your academic qualifications. It could also be related to your work experience. So do get in touch with your academic consultant, and we will be able to advise you on how to meet that English requirement. Okay, we have 2 last questions. I like the specializations that the MBA provides. Can I complete a specialization and then take additional modules from another specialist route to be awarded 2 MBAs? Oh, interesting question.
If I get that correctly, So we would only advise you to do one specialist route as a starting point. So for example, you can do MBA in banking, and you can only do MBA in banking and do that specialist route. If you do decide that you want to do another MBA that is specialized in a different area, I mean, I guess that's something that you could do, but it's not something that you can mix maybe a specialist from banking with a specialist from HRM, if that makes sense. Yeah, so two specialists per a particular program, and it's specific to that program because we talked about how you have to do a research project, for example, and that is very specific to that banking area. So it wouldn't be the case where you can mix two specialists. So I hope I've answered that because I wasn't sure about that.
Yes, Dr. Actually spot on. Unfortunately, the university would not permit you to do two specialist routes. And Dr. Catherine is quite correct. In order for you to get your MBA, you do require dissertation. That means you would end up doing two dissertations,
Patients,
right?
yeah. So
Yeah. Academically, unfortunately, the university does not permit that. Okay, so just be very, very sure that you have chosen the right specialist route. But as Dr. Catherine has said, you know, throughout your studies, you can actually swap your specialist route. Okay.
Yeah, you can. And the way to make sure you're safe on that is focus on doing the core modules first, because some of the core modules give you an idea of some of the different specialists. And you can then think, haven't done this core module. I think this is what I'm going to get from this specialist, and I'm not quite keen on that. And then you can change. So there is an option to switch, but, you know, just depends on, you know, when you do switch. Yeah, so just be mindful of that.
Absolutely. Good. And the very last question, which is quite a common question, is it possible to start off my studies online and then transfer to full-time studies at the campus?
Unfortunately, again, that's something that we will not be able to do currently. And the reason for that is because the on-campus version has a different structure to the online version. So doing that could, you know, impact in terms of, yeah, so it's a different structure basically, I think is the simplest answer. And so because of that, you can transfer from one, but I understand it's something that maybe people might want to do, and we are looking at that, but at the moment it's not an option, unfortunately, just because of the difference in structure.
Good, excellent. Okay, so I have managed to group all the questions together. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and they were wonderful questions. Thank you. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Catherine. It was wonderful having you with us this evening and giving us a very good presentation. And I just want to mention while we close off, we are currently accepting applications for September, but there are some places available for May. The May intake will start on the 29th of May, and today's the 3rd of May, so we do have a few more days left for you to send in your application. Alternatively, you're very welcome to apply for September and get that very important unconditional offer for you. Again, thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and have a good evening. Good evening to you, Dr. Catherine.
Good evening. Thanks, everyone. And I hope to see some of you on our student list at Edinburgh Napier.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.